My name is Darina, and I live in a sleepy American town where nothing much ever happens. But one evening, everything changed. It began with a sound, a low, scraping noise that seemed to come from the direction of the old town cemetery. Against my better judgment, curiosity pulled me toward the iron gates. To my surprise, they were wide open. Inside, a circle of people dressed in black stood silhouetted against a fresh grave. Their faces were grim. I gathered my courage and asked what was going on. A man turned to me, his eyes shadowed with worry. "We're looking for a missing girl," he said. "There's a rumor, an evil spirit in this graveyard that takes young women." My blood ran cold, but I couldn't walk away. I joined their search. Just as we were about to give up, the earth near the headstone began to shift. We frantically dug with our hands, uncovering not a body, but a hidden entrance to a tunnel. The air below was thick with the smell of damp soil and decay. Our phone lights flickered over ancient skeletons and crumbling coffins. Then we heard it, a faint whimper. Deeper in the tunnel, we found her, the missing girl, tied to a skeleton in a makeshift cage. We freed her and scrambled back into the night. She told us she had gotten lost, and something, or someone, had trapped her down there. I helped bring a girl home that night, but a part of me never left that tunnel. I don't believe in the town's ghost story anymore. I know the real evil was human, and now I always lock my doors after sunset and never, ever cut through the old graveyard. You know how it is in the stories. When night falls, the world transforms. Shadows grow teeth, ordinary sounds become threats, and things that should never walk the earth come out to play. They dance their wicked dance until the first roosters crow, and until then, anything they catch is either driven mad or never seen again. We've all read the tales and seen the movies, but what if the line between folklore and reality is thinner than we think? I want to tell you a story about a foolish teenager named Nikolai, who learned this lesson the hard way 30 years ago. He thought a midnight stroll through the local cemetery would be a fun, thrilling adventure. How do stupid ideas like this take root? Usually from a dare. Nikolai and his friends were arguing about who had the most guts. The challenge to cross the old cemetery from end to end, alone in the dead of night. Nikolai, a strong, athletic guy, a real heartthrob in their small town, volunteered. He couldn't back down in front of his friends. His reputation was on the line, and so it was settled. That night, as the others went home to their warm, safe beds, our hero set off for the graveyard. For a while, Nikolai wasn't scared. He was even intrigued, wandering among the crumbling, moss-covered headstones, recognizing names of old relatives and long-dead neighbors. The silence was heavy, but it was his. Then a voice cut through the dark. "Got a smoke?" Nikolai jumped, spinning around. Standing there was a disheveled, homeless-looking man, insistently holding out a hand for a cigarette. Since Nikolai didn't smoke, he quickly refused. "Suit yourself," the old man grunted. Then he turned, and Nikolai's blood ran cold. Instead of feet, the man had the cloven hooves of a goat. The click-clack of them on the cobblestones echoed as the figure shuffled toward an ancient mausoleum. Nikolai fell to the ground, trembling with a fear he'd never known. Not a man, a devil. But a reckless, burning curiosity overpowered his terror. Maybe he didn't believe his own eyes. Maybe something darker was pulling him in. Whatever the reason, following that thing was the worst mistake of his life. The mausoleum was pitch black inside. Nikolai stepped in, saw nothing, and quickly retreated. The moment he emerged back into the moonlight, the devil was waiting for him. It lashed out with a powerful hoof, striking Nikolai square in the stomach with a sickening thud. The air rushed from his lungs as he crumpled to the ground in agony. "Stay out!" the creature hissed. Then it turned, its hooves click-clacking back into the darkness. The mausoleum door slammed shut with supernatural force, leaving Nikolai writhing on the cold earth. The moment the pain subsided enough to move, he scrambled to his feet and ran, pure instinct driving him away from that cursed place. He never set foot in that graveyard again. When he told his friends the next day, they just laughed. They called him a coward, a chicken. But Nikolai felt no petty teenage anger. All he felt was a deep primal fear that clung to him long after. That fear never really left him, especially at night. And maybe that was for the best. Some legends are warnings. The things that go bump in the night are real, and a little healthy fear is the only thing that keeps you safe from them. It was a small town, the kind where everyone knows everyone else's secrets, but no one says a word. One weekend, the Millers took their 7-year-old son, Ethan, to the local cemetery to clean the family graves. It was an all-day affair. With no one to leave him with, Ethan had to come along. While his parents were busy scraping old paint off headstones and pulling weeds, they let Ethan explore, warning him not to go too far. "If you get lost," his father said, "just come back to the main gate. We'll meet you there." Ethan wandered among the monuments, reading the names. That's when he found it, a plot with a plain gray stone. No name, no dates, nothing. Just then, a man walked past. "Excuse me," Ethan asked, "do you know who's buried here?" The man didn't even look at him. "It's yours," he grumbled and walked on. Ethan's heart skipped a beat, but he shook it off. A stupid joke. Then an elderly woman appeared. He asked her the same question. She stared right through him. "It's yours." "What is wrong with everyone?" Ethan exclaimed, his voice trembling. "I'm only 7 years old." The old woman's expression didn't change. "Children die at 7. Frustrated and scared, Ethan waited. Soon, 2 women approached. He asked again, hoping for a sane answer. "Sweetie," one said with a pitying smile, "that's your grave." A few days later, Ethan fell ill with a bizarre and aggressive infection. Within a month, he was gone. He was buried in that very plot. You see, the Millers were con artists, not parents. They would adopt toddlers, raise them just long enough for no one to ask questions, and then take out massive life insurance policies. When the child turned 7, they would engineer a tragic death and collect the money. The entire town knew, but they were too terrified to speak up. They feared the Millers would infect them too. And the empty grave? The cemetery was having a sale. The plot was half off, so they bought it in advance. Pale moonlight breaking through the clouds, the crosses and headstones looked sinister, casting strange, shifting shadows. A traitorous shiver ran down my spine. What the hell had I gotten myself into? Satanists might be delusional, but they were also unpredictable, and the old man never even gave me his name. I listened until my ears ached, periodically checking the watch's glowing green hands. At 10 minutes to midnight, the gate creaked. I heard muffled voices approaching. A distinct meowing sound cut through the quiet. "Shut that thing up! You'll wake the guard!" someone hissed. "Relax, I saw him. He's passed out drunk. He doesn't care," a second voice replied. "Passed out drunk? You're mistaken, boys. Just you wait." I got ready. There were 3 of them, 2 in leather biker jackets, 1 in a long trench coat. They passed the Poplinsky Mausoleum and stopped at an ornate monument featuring 2 weeping angels. One pulled out a spray can and began muttering as he defaced the angels' faces. Another pulled something small and squirming from a bag. "Ready to start?" he asked. The thing in his hands let out a loud, frightened meow. A kitten. These bastards. "Wait for midnight. Let me do this properly." The one in the trench coat handed the kitten to his friend and began drawing symbols on a headstone. The other started tying strings to the kitten's paws, and I shuddered to imagine what they planned to do. Monsters. Quietly, I opened the watch. The minute and hour hands were straight up. The second hand was ticking down the final moments. At the final click, I leaped from my hiding spot and roared, "On the ground! You're under arrest!" and threw open the lantern's shutter. I never expected that old kerosene lantern to produce such a powerful beam. I was nearly as stunned as the would-be occultists. The effect was like a spotlight, but even that blinding light couldn't account for the pure, unadulterated terror that twisted their faces. I swear I saw one of their hairlines recede. They dropped their spray cans, the bag, and the kitten, and fled in a blind panic. A sudden gust of wind roared from behind me, kicking up dust, leaves, and debris. I gave chase for a dozen paces, stomping loudly as promised, then stopped to catch my breath. That's when I heard the pathetic mewing. I found the little gray ball of fur by the monument with the two angels. I freed it from the strings and tucked it inside my jacket, where it calmed down and fell silent, nestling against the warmth. After wandering the cemetery for a bit, I found no trace of the vandals or the old man. The night was getting late, and I headed home with a profound sense of surrealism. The next morning, I was frying eggs while the kitten nibbled on bits of sliced ham. The local news was on TV. And the bodies of 3 unidentified individuals were discovered last night at the city cemetery. No visible signs of trauma were found. The cemetery administration has declined to comment. We spoke with the security guard on duty. A disheveled, red-faced man who looked like a career alcoholic appeared on the screen. He was mumbling something about the bodies being found near the mausoleum of Count Alentiev, a pre-revolutionary benefactor and philanthropist to whom the city owed much of its former prosperity. The deceased are believed to have had prior records for vandalism and were known to be involved in the occult, the anchor reported cheerfully. The kitten meowed and scampered into the hallway. I followed and immediately spotted something on the floor. It was the old pocket watch with the luminous hands. Picking it up, I saw an inscription engraved on the cover in ornate, swirling letters. To Count P.P. Alentiev, from H.I.M. "8 years ago, the worst thing that can happen to anyone happened to me. I lost someone I loved. My father died. To say I was grieving would be an understatement. He and I had a special bond. I was his favorite, even over my brothers and sisters. I remember the disbelief when my older brother came in and told me he was gone, and the way I sobbed uncontrollably when his coffin stood in our living room during the viewing. But when we drove to the cemetery for the burial, my all-consuming grief was suddenly replaced by a terrifying curiosity about the strange events unfolding around me. They were lowering my father's casket into the ground on thick straps. I couldn't bear to watch. Using the noise and tears of my relatives as cover, I slipped away, wandering lost among the headstones. I was walking blindly, numb with sorrow, when I felt my feet carrying me on their own. Soon I found myself standing before a crumbling, moss-covered gravestone. The plot was decorated not with flowers, but with patches of yellow dead grass. It was autumn. The name on the stone was Michael Joseph Fletcher. There was no photo, just a blank, oval silhouette where one had clearly been. But that wasn't what held my attention. Suddenly I felt a presence. A sinister, piercing gaze that felt like it was looking right through me. An intense, unnatural cold washed over me, and I was frozen solid by a fear I'd never known. You know that feeling when terror locks every single muscle? Then an icy hand closed around my wrist. I couldn't see it, but I could absolutely feel its frozen grip. Consumed by pure horror, I tore myself away and ran, sprinting and weaving between the graves like a hunted animal. I was completely disoriented, no longer knowing where my father's funeral was. I just ran until I saw the edge of the cemetery and a low iron fence. I scrambled over it, stumbling and falling onto the grass outside. My mother found me there. She'd been searching for me, and she was angry, but when she saw my face, streaked with tears and white with terror, her expression softened. She hugged me tight and told me to be strong, that everything would be okay. She assumed my state was all from the grief of losing my dad. If only she had known the real reason for my fear. But as it turned out, the thing from the cemetery hadn't let me go. On the car ride home, I constantly felt it sitting next to me. Back at the house during the reception, I could feel its icy breath on the back of my neck. I was terrified of going to sleep, but eventually my mother sent my sister and me to bed. My sister Sarah and I shared a room. My bed was against the left wall, facing the door, and hers was against the right. I lay down, desperately trying to push the scary thoughts away, and eventually fell into a troubled sleep. I dreamed I was running through a series of endless, twisting corridors, a labyrinth. I wasn't just running, I was fleeing from something. A monstrous roar echoed behind me. I glanced back and saw a huge, hulking man with long, matted hair hanging over his face. He cornered me in a dead end, grinning with rows of blackened teeth. Just as he reached for me, a door materialized in the wall to my right. It flew open and my father stood there. "Get in now," he said, pulling me inside and slamming the door shut, which then vanished into solid wall. He turned to me. "How on earth did you pick up that filth?" He didn't get to say more as I threw my arms around him, sobbing with relief. When I'd calmed down, he sat me on a chair that appeared from nowhere and explained, "What attached itself to you at the cemetery is the spirit of a suicide. Taking your own life is the most terrible sin a person can commit. A suicide isn't supposed to be given a funeral service or buried in consecrated ground. But his family ignored the rules. They had a service and buried him in the cemetery, which they should never have done. Now his soul is trapped there, unable to move on to its destined punishment. So he's trying to use you to cross over into the afterlife by latching onto your soul and dragging you down with him. But don't be afraid. At the first light of dawn, he'll vanish. Until then, remember this. When you wake up, he will call your name. No matter what he says, do not turn around. I have to go now." I started to cry again, but he reassured me. "Don't worry, we'll see each other again, I promise. Just make sure you all remember me and visit my grave. Not all the time, but a couple of times a year so it doesn't end up looking like that poor soul's. Until next time, son, I love you. And remember, don't turn around." His silhouette began to blur, like I was looking through frosted glass. The next instant, I was awake in my bedroom, staring at the wall my bed was pushed against. I lay there wondering if it had all just been a dream, until I heard exactly what my father had warned me about. I was facing the wall, and from behind me I heard the voice of my sister Sarah, whispering my name. "Oliver!" Hearing my sister's voice, I almost turned over. But something, my father's warning, held me back. Besides, even though the voice was familiar, there was something alien hiding within it. It was her voice, and yet it wasn't. "Oliver!" the voice called again, more insistently. "What?" "Turn around. I think I have something in my eye. I can't see anything in the dark. Turn on the light. Just turn around. Turn around." I pressed myself even tighter against the wall and didn't answer. The voice called my name for what felt like 2 hours. Gradually, it began to change, becoming higher, then shifting into a raspy, deep, masculine growl. I was petrified. "Turn around!" it finally roared. I don't know about you, but I was so paralyzed with terror that my vision started to go dark. Finally, the first light of dawn appeared through the window. The voice vanished. The next morning, I asked Sarah if she had called for me in the night. Her answer was predictable. She looked at me with utter confusion and said it must have been a dream. I don't know what it was. You can say anything can happen in a dream, but how do you explain that voice? All I know is that I am eternally grateful to my father. I believe he saved me. From what, I can't truly say. Even now, all these years later, I still visit his grave and tend to it. I always will.